Oh, you didn't tell her.
I just asked you.
I forgot.
Okay,
That's my fault.
Just when?
Whatever.
When do you want to do it? Do you want to bring us out of silent with it?
Out of,
Would that be
Out of silent, that's nice.
out of silence?
there? It for your.
Well,
What do you need?
So she can sing a microphone stand. Or
Test.
Hey, Robin, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
or do you just want me to put on the lavaliers for the song?
That,
You just have to turn.
maybe just yeah. Do you want to give her maybe Rabbi Khan's lavalier just that part
Or Bob's.
or Bob's?
Or Bob's, yeah, okay.
the song you did Nefesh
Yeah.
last night, is it written by somebody different than the usual text in the, because the Hebrew is very fancy and
Well,
different.
That's about all I get out of it.
that's what I'm checking, if that exists. It's on.
So he directed you to that page.
Yeah.
Usually we only do the first verse of
Yeah,
it, but I do those two verses. But
Yeah, because it's not the simple Hebrew that we read in the
right.
Siddur.
Yeah,
but
the second paragraph is still part of it, and I sing it. So it
Very
extends the song.
pretty.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
Rabbi.
shalom.
I like that one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna bust it out for the 2 weeks or Friday night. I'm gonna bust out the whole khaki outfit.
Did you make sure that you did?
I did.
But I'd rather want to.
I did.
We should. That's really. What is the?
Before we do anything else.
Of course.
It's working.
Right. I went to school in that, so, high school, and it was, fantastic. I didn't take it.
Is that working?
Unless you had a later class at 2:15. I couldn't see lots of that. I love computer.
I don't know why I'm in such a hurry.
Looks like the boat's gonna tilt this way.
Happy birthday. Ready?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Rodani.
Yeah.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechezarta binishmati bechemla Rabba emunatecha Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta binishmati bechemla, bechemla, rabba emunateh, rabba emunatecha.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Hello.
Shalom.
Very nice to be with you on this excellent and lovely Shabbat morning. Oh, thank you. Oh, look.
That only took 5 years.
We have accomplished our shtick together. That is
Shabbat
nice.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We're done. There's nothing else for us to do here. That's very nice. Whether we prayed at all or learned anything, or at least we got the little opening, and we're done. That's all we have to do. Welcome you to the live stream, and we're turning off. We're done. The service is over. Hoping the live stream is working, by the way.
I'd like to know, why do you have the royal chair and I have...
Oh, yeah.
these
Why don't you
chairs?
have that chair?
I don't know. No, it
Oh,
was.
oh no, because we
Yeah,
had a
we-
different setup last night. It didn't look like this last night. So,
No. I am perfectly fine.
if anything, we should give a royal chair to Linda
Yes.
because it's her birthday.
We can
So
put it right there in the middle.
So you could sit right here. Do you want to sit right here for those
Since
services?
you read
no,
the entire
okay,
Torah
great.
portion
Okay,
anyways.
no, okay, no, all right. We had a lot of birthdays. We had a birthday last night too.
And an anniversary. It was his
It was my anniversary. My anniversary yesterday. Yes, thank you. Yeah. I was on Shabbat and on Tu B'Av. It was Tu B'Av, and yes, it was very nice. It's my anniversary. 21 years. 21 years.
Did Lisa know?
She knows. My question always is how many years. I always ask her how many years are happy for her. So of the 21 years, so all of them were happy for me. But I'm still waiting for the response from her on how happy she is about the 21 years with me. But yes, 21 years. It's very nice. It's very nice. It's nice.
It gets complicated when she has to divide into the years.
That's true. It's just like, you know what? Half that year was fine, and
365
then
into
the other year was
21.
fine.
Okay,
and
good.
I don't remember. Yeah. So 0.0. That's right. When you get the decimals, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah. Yes. Hopefully, you on the live stream. Hello, welcome, Shabbat Shalom. Hopefully, it's working. According to our calculations, it's working. According to the equipment, it's working. So, if you are joining us for the first time on our live stream, you can follow along with every part of the service utilizing our prayer book. Go to cbiboca.org, top left corner, hit menu, hit services. After services, there's a whole array of people you're going to see. First, you're going to see the Regal Ops, and then you're going to see Cantor Muchnick. And next to Cantor Muchnick, there's a button you can press that says Virtual Prayer Book, and you can join us for the entirety of the service. Those of us here, hello, welcome. Make sure everyone knows where the prayer books are here. Okay, good. Okay. So we started with a little Modeh Ani to thank God for bringing us up this morning. We were discussing, Cantor and myself, just a little bit of the tired this morning, and we were very thankful for the Modeh Ani, that God was able to replenish our souls on this morning, on the Shabbat morning. And now we'll continue with thanking God for our daily blessings and miracles. Nisim B'chol Yom 175.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech vivina le'avchin ben yom ve'layla. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam atir asurim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam al bisharumim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavir shena meinai utnuma me'afapai. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozei Yisrael b'gvura. Amen.
Continue with our section of Psalms, Psukei de Zimra, on this Shabbat morning, 183.
Baruch she'amar v'haya haolam. Baruch oseh v'reshit. Baruch ozer kayem. Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam la'netzach. Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came to be. Blessed is the one who continually authors creation. Blessed is the one who decrees and fulfills. Blessed is the one who is compassionate towards all creatures. Blessed is the one who exists for all time, ever enduring. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal batishbachot.
We are going to continue now on page 192, right in the middle, with Shochen Ad.
Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim Adonai laisharim navatehila befi sharim titalal uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach uv'lshon chasidim titromam ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובמקהלות רבבות, עמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתפאר, שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ, Baruch atah Adonai, El melech gadol batishbachot, El hahodaot, Adon haniflaot, Habocher b'shirei zimra, Melech elchei haolamim. Yitkadal veyitkadash shemei rabba, Be'olma divrach yiruteh ve'yamlich malchuteh, Bechayechon uvyomechon Uchayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala Uvizman kariv Ve'imeru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam lol mehamaya Yitbarach Yitbarach ve'yishtabach V'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha berichu Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata Tush bechata v'nechemata Damiran be'olma ve'imeru
Amen. Continue now with our call to worship, Baruch Hu 195, and together we stand.
Lai la lai 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 lai
Lai,
lai 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach
Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Baruch Adonai Hamech Olam Yotzer Rov Choshech Oseh Shalom Uboreh Et Hakol. Please be seated. We continue with Ahava Rabbah, 198.
Ahava Rabbah Haftanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagedola Vitera Chamalta Aleinu Ba'avur Avoteinu Ve'imoteinu Shebatchu Vecha V'talmedeim Chukei Chaim Ve'ha'erenenu b'toratecha Ve'dahabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha Ve'yachel levavenu Le'ahava u'lira et shemecha Ve'lo nevosh Ve'lo nikalem Ve'lo nikashel Le'olam va'ed Ki v'shem ka'odshecha Hagadol ve'hanora b'hatachnu Nagila ve'nismecha Nagila ve'nismecha Vishuatecha Baruch atah Adonai Abocher be'amo Yisrael
Ahava. Special attention to the Shema today. Special attention to the Shema. 200 is where we continue.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed
201.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam V'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sharecha
202.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem ve'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei v'yidehem ledorotam v'natnu al tzitzit הכנף בצ'יל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We continue with our song of redemption, Micha Mocha, page 204.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות Seifele Shira Chadasha Shivchu Geulim Lishimcha Asefatayam Yachad Kulam Hodu Veimlichu Ve'amru Adonai Himloch Le'olam Va'ed Tzu Yisrael Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael Uvtechinu Mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go'aleinu Adonai Tzibaot Shemo Kiddush Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Continue with the Amidah, 205.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fia giteilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elokei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, Umevii gula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morin hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Matir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'gevurot, Umido melach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'neman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Nekadesh shimcha ba'olam, kishem shemakdishim lo oto b'shmei marom, hakatuv al yad neviecha, v'kara ze el ze ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai tzivaot, Melo chol haaretz kivodo. Adir adirenu Adonai Adoneinu adir shimcha bechol haaretz. Baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo. Echadu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Vehu Yashmienu Berachamav Leinei Kol Chai Ani Adonai Elohechem Yimloch Adonai Leolam Elohai Yichtzion Ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, בשמך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue silently now, beginning here on page 210 through page 219. And when you are finished, please be seated.
Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin. So the beautiful piece, Nachamu, connects for us on the Shabbat because it is Shabbat Nachamu. As you recall, last week it was Shabbat Chazon. That was the Torah portion preceding Isaiah's vision of the fall of the temple, because since last we met was the 9th of Av, and this Shabbat is Shabbat Nachamu, and Nachamu means to comfort, and this is Shabbat of comfort because the same prophet Isaiah then speaks again to us on this Shabbat and says, there will be comfort for you also. Even though the temple has fallen, we will be okay, and there'll be comfort for us. So Isaiah last week maybe speaks harshly to us, and then now this week speaks in comfort to us, which of course for us as Reform Jews puts us at the question of, is it the same Isaiah, by the way, that speaks, or are there two Isaiahs, or are there sometimes people say three different Isaiahs? There are three different books to Isaiah. Even though there's one book of Isaiah, there are some commentaries that say it's two authors or three authors, because the first Isaiah we meet is pretty angry. The second Isaiah we meet, as you can even hear from the beautiful way that Robin sang to us and for us, the sweetness, there had the sweetness inside of Isaiah. And then the last part of Isaiah is neither like the first nor the second. So some people think that it's three different authors, if you want to go with that hypothesis. Or you can just say he has different moods. That's up to you, and it's the same Isaiah. It's the same Isaiah. But thank you for the beautiful music and for the connection for us to transfer from our difficulty of last week into the comfort that is for us this week that our prophet provides for us in Shabbat Nachamu, which always falls in this construct. I believe Shabbat Nachamu is always matched with Vaitchanan. I actually think it's matched up always with the Torah portion. So I'm pretty sure the rabbis did a good job. They matched it up always, no matter what. So thank you. It's beautiful. And a beautiful connection for our Shabbat. So speaking of comfort and a beautiful transition for us, we're going to move from our service, our morning service, into our Torah service officially now, as we continue on page, whatever page we always continue on, 244.
Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch Le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Al harachamim eitiv ha'mitzoncha et Zion Timneh chomot Yerushalayim Ki v'chol levad batachnu Melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim.
246.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים.
248.
ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, לעמו ישראל, בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו, גדול אדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו.
Please be seated. Do you want to do Torah now? You want to do Torah first, second? No, it's up to you. Okay, great. Was it? Did it work? All right. What's up to you? Do you want to do Torah first? Do you want to do study first? Torah first. All right. Well, in that case, if we're doing Torah first. Yes, you have a question. Yes.
What the reason they sing in Shema two times,
The Shema and the Shema window, and then Shema for here. Shema in the cycle of the service always just sits there. It's the construct of how every single service works. It's like a unit. That's the one that always appears in the cycle of any time we pray, right? So there's always like an opening unit, and then there's actually the whole unit it's called Shema Uvirchoteha, which means Shema and her blessings. It's like a whole little unit. Then we transition into the Amidah. So every single prayer that we pray has little units. By the way, that's the same in any movement. So the Orthodox movement has the same structure as we do. We just have less stuff in each unit, if that makes sense. So the Orthodox have a lot of stuff in each unit. We have a few things, but the units are the same. So that's the cycle. The reason we say Shema here is because we are declaring the oneness of God as we are opening the Ark doors, as we experiencing Torah. It's sort of a larger experience, and saying we are all one as we connect to Torah. So is it up?
Yeah, it's up. Just keep an eye on people.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So yeah, that's the explanation. There are two different genres of moments. One is literally in the liturgy, on the structure of the text, and one is this. Well, they're very important. It's interesting you bring it up because we're going to be talking about it the whole time today. Because there's the ancient sound of the Velcro. I love that. Yes, so we'll be talking about that today. But that's why they sit in two different spots in the liturgy. One is more like declarative, the one in the Torah portion, and the other just sits in the structure of the liturgy. We can actually look at it just for a second. Are there people waiting? Where are they? Oh, will you do it? Thank you. Thanks. Oh, thanks. So let's see, 170 something here. So if we go to, let's see, just for a moment, for us to look at it. It's actually very relevant because we're going to be talking about it. So if you go to, is it here? Yes, if you go to 195, for instance, in the prayer book, If you go to 195, you see at the top of the page, we don't actually discuss it very often, but the top of the page says, you see it says Shema u'virchoteha, and then it says Shema and its blessings. So that's the unit. But the thing that we look at on 195 is not the Shema, it's the Baruch Hu. But the Baruch Hu starts the unit, and the main part of the unit is the Shema. So, are there more people? All right, thanks. What's that? I am. Well, I'm good at talking. Not necessarily good at two things at one time, though. But I can't juggle. Can you juggle? Let's see. I have a friend who can juggle, by the way. I have a friend who can juggle and eat an apple at the same time. It's very impressive. He takes a bite of an apple while he's juggling. So if you see, like, this is a unit. So it doesn't matter whether, if it's the week we're looking at the Shema, it doesn't matter if we're doing a Torah service, because we only do Torah services on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. You still do Shema every morning. And so you do Shema because it fits into the category of the morning service of that unit, Shema Mirchotecha. The unit, by the way, ends with the Amidah. The Amidah is the next unit, right? And so there's also the preceding unit, which is how we start, right? So if you look at how we start in the morning, that's on page 171, I think, right? If you go to 170, if you go to 170 for a second, then you'll see that's the, and it's called the Birkat HaShachar. It's the morning blessing. So how there are units to prayer, and it's, like I said, the same units no matter where you go. No matter you go to a conservative synagogue or an Orthodox synagogue or a conservative synagogue, the units are always going to be the same. Just how much meat is in each unit will vary by synagogue, by movement, by that stuff. But the stuff will be the same. So Shema is always going to sit there, which is why it's important. It's so important. It has its own category. It's the whole category is called Shema Virchoteha. The whole category is just named after the Shema. Even though we don't start with the Shema, it takes us. So it's really important. And then, like I said, the second time is more of like the declarative Torah moment that we share. So yeah, good question. And relevant, because we're talking about it in a minute. All right, Cantor Mushniks, there and prepared is going to be chant some Torah, but we can't chant the Torah unless we have an aliyah to the Torah. For our birthday celebrator, yay, Linda. All right, remind me, Hebrew name? Tamod Leah bat Ruven v'Getel L'Aliyah la Torah. We're on page 250 if you want to follow along, by the way, with the blessings. 250.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinatam levavnecha v'dibarta bam. V'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lachtecha b'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'ksartam le'ot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Since you're there, we'll give you another blessing. Why not? Since it's your birthday. Mishiperach avotenu v'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, ve'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Chelev, Leah. Hu yivarech et, remind me again? Leah bat Reuven v'Gittel. בעבור שעלתה לכבוד המקום, לכבוד התורה, לכבוד היום הולדת שלה, בסחר טוב, זה הקדוש ברוך הוא, ישמריה ויציליה מכל צרה, צוקה מכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיה, עם כל ישראל, ונאמר, Amen. We want to bless our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless Linda, who has come up to the Torah in honor of the Torah, in honor of God, in honor of Shabbat, in honor of her birthday. May she merit from the Holy One of blessings, protection, rescue from all trouble, distress, from illness. May God send success to all of her endeavors, together with all Israel, as together we say, Amen. Woo, yay, happy birthday. Ishakah. No, that's nice. Happy birthday, sure.
You know how long it took me to practice that Torah?
I know, sure.
You should have.
Everyone else in the Zoom room was chanting too. I could hear them. Could you hear them? They were all chanting, yeah. Yeah. Well, you went to a cantorial school for that moment. That was it. That was your moment. That was it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was fun. All right. That's always why it's nice if your bar mitzvah Torah portion falls on this one. You're like, I got this one. This one's easy. You know what? Depending on the year, sometimes the first bar mitzvah is around now. Also in the Northeast, when people don't take a break because of the summer, they're all year round b'nai mitzvah. It's funny. I've only worked as a rabbi in Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Florida. So I don't know non-summer month breaks, but because I've only been in warm weather, but. Oh, really? They also pause?
Not all of Massachusetts, just the temple I came.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
That's why you're online now.
That's fine, yeah. All right, let's study some Torah, friends. So we're in Va'et Hanan, is what the Torah portion is called. It's Deuteronomy 3:23. Va'et Hanan 3:23. 3:23 is where we are. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23. Va'et Hanan. You can go to Deuteronomy and then flip a little. Or you can go to the end of the whole book and then flip backwards. Or if you want to, you go from the beginning and then go through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and then write a little bit, if you want to do that. Could take you 40 years, like it took them. You could go from the end of the Bible, actually, and go all the way back. Whew, that would take a while. I don't recommend that. But I don't think you have the whole Bible, so you only have the... All right, let's do our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, so the plan, by the way, is to look at the beginning a little bit, just to get a flavor of what the Torah portion is, and then we're going to leave and jump. So we're going to do two major jumps. No, hope it's not a surprise. This Torah portion has maybe the two most popular, most interesting pieces of text in Torah. One might guess. Shema v'ahavta are in here, and the Ten Commandments. So we're going to spend more time looking at those two than the other parts of the Torah portion, mostly because it's Shema v'ahavta and the Ten Commandments. But we're going to get a little flavor. So we'll just start at the beginning, so we can get context of what's going on. 37-day-long speech from Moses still, because we're in the book of Deuteronomy, and let's just dive in. Please, birthday girl, please.
I pleaded with the Eternal at that time, saying, O eternal God, you who let your servants see the first works of your greatness and your mighty hand, you whose powerful deeds no God in heaven or on earth Eternal was wrathful with me on your account and would not listen to me.
Okay, so what do we have? What's happening? Who's talking? What's the context? What's going on?
Moses is pleading to go as well.
Yes, so Moses is pleading. What does va'etchanan mean? It's a fun word to say, by the way. Va'etchanan. It's good, a good ta, cha in there. Litchanen, what does litchanen mean?
I plead.
Yes, I plead. Yes, it's plead, beg. It's yes, it's what you say to usually your child when they're like, please, please, stop begging. It's not happening, right? It's not happening. You cannot have the car. So you cannot have the car. You can, and it's your fault, exactly. And it's your fault you can't have the car, exactly. So please, right. So God, this is Moses, right? I pleaded with God at the time, saying, "Oh, please let me go." And God said, what was God's response? What does 26 say? Wrathful, angry, wrathful, right? Ah, yes. So whose fault is it I can't go in? Your fault. Yes, it's your fault, Israelites, why I can't go in. How do we feel about this? Terrible. Okay. Terrible. Like, do you feel terrible about it because he can't go in because of you? Or you feel terrible that Moses would say this? What terrible do you feel? Clarify or terrible?
He deserves to go in. He's endured 40 years of this.
I got it. Okay, so you feel terribly for Moses. Okay, all right. Okay, good. How do you feel about the statement, though, that he's saying he can't go in because of us? How do you feel about that?
Not very saintly.
Not very saintly. All right, well, he's not a saint, but yes, but not very, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, they said, like, Moses, our teacher, not very, like, warm and teachery. Like, this is your fault, right? Okay, yes. Okay, all right. So there's maybe a lack of responsibility, perhaps. Okay, yes. Who's in the Zoom?
Marcia and then Gail.
Okay.
I think they both feel terrible because Moses is pleading and God had already made a decision. God can't go back on what he decided. And he told Moses, you're not going in. So I think they're both hurting badly inside.
Okay, nice. So who's the other? You think God? You think when you say both, you mean Moses and God, both?
Yes.
You think God's upset also about this?
Yes, because he had no choice. He had already made the decision, and he already told Moses he's not going in.
It's very interesting, I think, because again, if you switch to the parental role, sometimes when we have to discipline in some way children, it's not like we walk away thinking to ourselves, "Boy, I love that." Right? So, I mean, not sometimes, almost always, it hurts us too. I mean, we're also hurt by it. And yet, sometimes it still needs to be done, right? Sometimes there still needs to be discipline, and yet you're still upset about it. The same thing works for a teacher. The same thing works for a parent. The same still works for, even for friends, right? There's sometimes we have to have some tough love sometimes, and it's not like you walk away and you think to yourself, "Hey, I'm so chipper about how that went," but you have to do it. So it's interesting. Okay. And then Gail, right?
Gail and Ron.
Okay.
I was going to say about responsibility, but also God chose Moses because of his humility, and he's beginning to lose that. And I feel sad for him. I hate that he didn't go in.
You think that Moses is losing some of his humility in this moment. Is that what you're saying, Gail?
Gail, you muted.
There was another question, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, he was also losing his humility. But again, I feel sad for him. I think he should have gone. And Moses has changed God's mind in the past.
That's true. That's true. It wouldn't have been the first time. So maybe he was using the previous precedent to be like, hey, it worked the last time and the time before actually. Why not this time? I might as well keep pleading to see if it works. Okay, nice.
Nothing is written in stone, right?
Nothing is written in stone. That's true, except for things that are written in stone. Yes, but other than that, things aren't written in stone. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, so in my mind, Moses pleading as he is, God is not acting as the judge in this here. He's acting more like a human being when he says to him, let it suffice thee, speak no more to me of this matter.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Right. That's what the next part says. Right. Enough. Right. That's the back end of 26. Right. 26b says enough. Never speak to me about this again. Like it's enough. I get it. So yeah.
Yeah. So he's speaking too much like a person. I mean, he's supposed to be above us.
Well, I think
this isn't what he's portraying anymore. He's not portraying himself as being the judge and the Almighty.
Right. I mean, I don't disagree that there are moments where we expect God to be godlike, but also it's better. It's easy. I feel like it's easier for us also sometimes for God to speak to us like we understand, because that way, it's more digestible. Because we probably have I would presume we have no concept of how God communicates. So perhaps it's better that we experience God the way that humans experience God. So yeah, Jay.
When Moses says that God is wrathful on your account, meaning the Israelite people, they've certainly done a lot of things that would make him think, yeah, maybe you guys weren't so great, and I'm getting the blame for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably not that far off base. You're saying for Moses to say, "I can't go in because of you," because how many times did I deal with the griping and with the kvetching and with the whining? Like how many times did I have to do that over and over and over again? So it's because of that.
Sandy, did you want to say something? Sandy?
No, I didn't want to say it.
Oh, okay. Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
How are you feeling, Sandy?
So, but I'm better than I was.
Okay. Well, it's nice to hear your voice. Very nice. And I don't have the screen, but also nice to see you. But yes.
Marcia wants to jump in.
Okay. All right.
I think there's always a danger that if Moses went in, they might worship him and not God. And I think there's always a danger. So he was never supposed to go in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the meta thought always on Moses is that it's better we don't know where he's buried. It's better that he never went in. Could you imagine what Moses' burial site would look like every single day of every year from every religion? Could you imagine what that place would look like? I mean, whether you were a Buddhist and you would still want to go and see Moses' grave. I mean, it's Moses, right? So the connection. So maybe it's better that we never do that. I think that's clearly a beautiful meta point. So yes.
Yeah, I want to defend God on this one.
Great.
So he's not always a merciful God. Sometimes he's a vengeful God.
Yeah.
So it is godlike.
Yeah.
And also,
It's true.
I forgot the also. Never mind.
Okay. No, but you're right. God is all of those things, right? God is a calming God. God is a vengeful God. God is a jealous God. God is a thoughtful God. God is a teacher. God is all of these things for us, right? God is a guide. But you're right. God is all of these personas, all these personalities, all of these characters. God is all of that, and I think that's okay because God can handle it. One of my most favorite professors of all perhaps my rabbi, Richard Levy, who may he rest in peace. He's sadly recently deceased. He always talked about. I always used to fly when I was a rabbinic student. I had to fly from school to a student pulpit. You had a student. Where'd you fly? Where'd you go?
Well, I was in New York.
Okay, so you were in New York. So you. Okay, so yeah, so I was in Los Angeles and I had to fly to Utah. Yes, there are Jews in Utah, and they're lovely. And I was in Ogden, and shout out to all of my Ogden friends. So So, and then on the, I never had time to, prepare for Torah reading and all this stuff during classes. So in the flight, I would prep, which was also difficult because I would sit like with all my Hebrew books in the plane, and people would be like, "What's that?" I'd be like, "I can't talk to you. I'm preparing." All these conversations would come up actually on the plane. For people would ask me about God and how come, like, I've lost, my relative died, or I fell out of touch with God, and how do I go back to God, and I don't appreciate God. And Richard Levy, my teacher, would always say, God can take care of God's self. God's okay. God's powerful enough to take all of our anger, our frustration, our sadness, all of our emotions. It's okay. God's going to be okay because it's God. He would always remind me that. So whatever emotion you have about God, it's okay, right? You're angry, you're frustrated, you feel lost, you feel whatever. Insert any emotion. He would always say, "He's got it," or "She's got it." God. He would always say that. So I think of him all the time for a lot of teachings. But in terms of the persona of God, God's got it, because God isn't like us. Although God sometimes wants to connect to us a little bit. So we have these more connective emotions that makes us seem like God is talking to us.
Gail?
Yes, Gail?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about Korah, like why he has to get swallowed by the earth alive. And she was saying to me that some of the lessons God has to make painfully clear to us. And maybe this is another one of those.
Yeah, that's a painful lesson for Korach. You can still hear him.
But it's also painful for Moses.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think that there's a very good book if you want to read it. It's called, I love the book. I should know the title of it. It's called, it's going to come to me. Yeah, it's going to come to me, yeah. It's overcoming, what's it called? It's overcoming, I think it's called Overcoming Life's Disappointments is what it's called. And it is about Moses. The whole book are little chapters teaching us how to overcome life's disappointments, and each section has a quote from the text about Moses, on how Moses still became the greatest leader of the Jewish people and the greatest prophet ever, even though he had to deal and overcoming life's, that's what it's called. It's called Overcoming Life's Disappointments. And it's about Moses, because really, if you think about it, over and over and over, even though he pushed through, he lived through constant disappointment. Constant disappointment. Even from his birth story, right? He was thrust out of his house. He was put into a basket. He was thrown into the Nile. Who knew what was going to happen to him, right? And so then he had to disappointed to find out he wasn't an Egyptian prince, right? He had to find it right from the beginning. What, I'm not an Egyptian prince? I'm an Israelite? What? Right? So just from the beginning. So if you want to read a very interesting and very good book called Overcoming Life's Disappointments, it's all about Moses. So, yeah. So, okay. Let's transition a little bit. Let's go to chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 5. All right, we ready? Chapter 5, are we good? Everyone? Okay, please take it away.
Moses summoned all the Israelites and said to them, "Hear, O Israel, the laws and rules that I proclaim to you this day. Study them and observe them faithfully. The Eternal our God but with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. Face to face, the Eternal One spoke to you on the mountain out of the fire. I stood between the Eternal you and you at that time to convey the Eternal's words to you, for you were afraid of the fire and did not go up the mountain, saying.
Okay, so what's this setup? What was the setup that we read, that we saw? Well, the setup for the Ten Commandments, right? So the Ten Commandments are coming next, but who are they for? Yes. Yes, right? If you look at verse 3, what does verse 3 say? Not necessarily with our ancestors, but with us. But it says with us. So whoever reads this book, whenever you read this book, whatever time you read this book, it says with us. So good job, Torah, once again, piecing this together and reminding us that whoever reads this, whenever you're reading it, however you are, whatever mood you're in, whatever age you are, when's the last time you saw it, whatever situation you're in, it doesn't make a difference. This is talking to you, it's talking to us, and if you keep reading, right, it says,
I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods beside me.
Yeah, keep going. Thanks.
But you shall not make for yourself a sculptured image, any likeness of what is in the heavens above. I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of...
8. Yeah.
You shall not make for yourself a
Right.
sculptured image, any likeness of what is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters below the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Eternal your God, am an impassioned God, visiting the guilt of the parents upon the children, upon the third and upon the fourth generations of those who reject me, but showing kindness to the thousandth generation of those who love me and keep my commandments.
Okay, how's that for an emotive God? What is God saying there? First of all, how many commandments have we just heard? How many were there? 3, right? What's the first one? Okay, what's the second one? Okay, good. What's 3? Right. No. Essentially, essentially no other gods. Right. But it goes on to say, right? What if you do? What does verse 9 say? Yes. Upon the third and upon the fourth generations. If you don't follow this, that's wrathful, I would say, don't you think? But if you follow them, then what? Thousandth generation.
Isn't that sort of like an oxymoron?
What?
Okay. My grandparents, this is a theoretical.
Sure.
I'm not talking about myself. My grandparents were very devoted and loving. So their offspring should be protected to the thousandth generation. However, my parents rejected God.
I think.
But I'm still under my grandparents.
No, I think it intercedes. I think it intercedes. Yeah, I think it intercedes, and I think what it says is that every generation has to follow this because you're hoping that the next one is going to follow suit. So
if my parents didn't follow it, it's the fault of their parents, and therefore my thousand.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right, because just because you follow it doesn't mean that you teach your children to follow it, right? So it's an obligatory little loop that God puts us in. Yes. Indeed.
Marcia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, he's talking to a generation that never used slavery.
Right.
And that's important because we'll see where he goes from there. And it's tricky.
Definitely tricky. Yes. Definitely. Were you going to say something? I feel like you were going to say something. What's that?
No, I'm not ready to say it.
Not ready to say something? But there's something formulating. There's something formulating. I can see. All right. Well, when you're ready, you jump in. All right. So I think that we are on 11. Is that right?
You shall not swear falsely by the name of the eternal your God, for the eternal will not clear one who swears falsely by God's name.
Okay, so that's still all 1, 2, and 3. That was still all 1, 2, and 3. All right, here comes 4.
Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as the eternal your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the eternal your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son, or your daughter, your male or female slave, your ox or your ass, or any of your cattle, or the stranger in your settlements, so that your male and female slave may rest as you do. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the eternal your God freed you from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the eternal your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day.
Okay, do you think Shabbat is important? Based on this piece of text? Right, we talk about how the Torah doesn't waste ink. Literally, it could have just been verse 12, right? Because we've heard this already. It's not the first time we heard this. It's the second recitation. The first recitation was in Yitro. So the first recitation was all the way in Exodus. So we heard this already. It's not like this is not new to us. So we're really just going to say, observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Because pretty much God is saying, keep the Sabbath in verse 12, because God's commanding you. So if it's a mitzvah and God's commanding you, I'm like, okay, God says so, I'm done. Why do I have to go into this great detail? Why go into great detail and, quote, waste Torah ink on adding all of this? Why do I need 13, 14, 15? Why do I need all of that in here?
Important.
It's important, yes. The details are important. What are so important about the details?
Everything deserves the rest.
Yes. Everything deserves the rest. Everything. And everything essentially in your area, in your settlement, deserves rest. So it's not that, oh, I can be resting, but that means that something else can be on and working for me to get the work done, even though it's not me doing it. It's really for me, right? So no work even for you can be done, right? Which also gets complicated for someone who, if you've heard that horrible term, Shabbos Goy, right? If you ever heard that before, right? So it gets complicated because you're not allowed. It says you're not allowed. Like no one in your circle is allowed to produce work for you, even though I'm not doing it, but no one else can produce it for you either. So it's pretty serious.
I was just going to say that, I come from a very Orthodox community, and there were plenty of Shabbos goys around, including in my own house. My father-in-law had one too, and I know that the Hasidim had them, living among them. I mean, it's just very prevalent. I don't understand if it's here and Orthodox Jews are following this, how they can do that, but that's what they do.
Yeah, this is what's happening now. I mean, there are Shabbos goys all the time. Not even Shabbos goys. I mean, because Shabbos goys are horrible because that's another human being. But just think about a timer, like a timer for your lights or your timer for electricity. Does that fall under here, you think, or not? Are we free and clear from this section, or no?
I think so, but a timer is not a human being.
Right.
Living animal.
Okay. But what about?
Knowingly setting something up to break the Shabbat
Right.
in advance.
I mean, you are knowingly doing it.
Oh, like tearing off the toilet paper. We shouldn't do that either.
Well, that's different because it's right? That's pre-Shabbat, right? So does it matter if it's pre-Shabbat or during Shabbat? Like if you want something to turn on, for instance, Saturday at 2 o'clock and you set a timer, is that different than pre-tearing toilet paper?
If you're doing it before Shabbat, if you're doing the mechanics of it before Shabbat,
Then it's clear. Okay.
I'm
No, it's good. But I'm saying, look, this is, by the way, this is why there's a Talmud. The Talmud exists, literally, the Talmud exists because of this conversation. Because someone's going to ask the question, well, then what about this? Well, what about that? What about right? This is also why there's an eruv. The eruv, right? That's the extension of your house. Eruv exists only because of another way for me to find a loophole through my loophole, so that I can do, because I can't break the fourth commandment, because it really says I can't, because if it says it. Yeah, Marcia.
What about in a health situation where a doctor is needed?
No, well, health is it's all goes out the window. So if your health, if it's an emergency, if it's medical, if it's people are in danger, then everything is thrown out. Yeah, and Shabbat is one of the first things that you break if necessary. So that's fine, for the sake of. But that's always the story of the wife that goes into labor on Shabbat, right? And they live 3 towns away from the hospital. So it's Shabbat, and you get in the car and you drive there, right? This is the story, and then you get to the ER, and you park your car, and you can't park your car, right? Because you drive to there's a story, I hear it all the time from whatever, and you drive to that roundabout in the ER, right? And then you can't move your car because no longer emergency. So if the car is running, and then you're like, well, what do? You hear the story all the time. I have relatives who talk about it, people who talk about it. What are you going to do? And you can't tell the person to move your car because I can't violate this part. So I can't be like, can you move my car? I can't tell you that. So when someone says, well, what do I do with the car? You're like, I don't know. Whatever you want. Because you've fulfilled the necessary step. So
You're blocking somebody else from, in case they have an emergency, you're blocking them from entering, so that could be the thing
that could possibly, if God forbid there's something that's going on there, then the possibility exists you can move your car. But if you're not, then no. It's also like if God forbid there's a fire and there are people or animals, by the way, that are in a barn, hypothetically, you let the barn burn down or a house burn down because you can't extinguish a flame as long as the people come out, right? But you can't, right? You get the people out, but then you have to stand there on Shabbat, and perhaps there are loopholes for this too. Let the structure burn down, right? Because you can't extinguish the fire. It says you're not allowed to. It's one of the things that you break Shabbat. This is why it's so complicated. This is why the paragraph is so big. Yes. Yeah.
And one of them is the Shabbat of love.
Uh-huh.
So I'm wondering how these 3 little mosaics all fit together when God wasn't showing, and there's great contrast, because God wasn't showing great love to this human being who had no blueprint or job description for being the first leader of the chosen people. So here's no love, I see it all here, and yet we're celebrating the Shabbat of love. So how does it all go together?
Hold on to that. Hold on to that, because we're going to talk about it we're going to talk about it actually in about 60 seconds. We're going to talk about it actually, and if it's still not sufficient of a response, then we'll have another conversation. But the answer might be coming. Actually, believe it or not, it might be coming. Okay. Yes.
These absolute rules that can be broken are very troubling.
Yes. Absolute rules are troubling. Yes. Particularly for the Reform movement. So thank you as a Reform Jew to bring that up. We don't like absolutes. Absolutes bother us.
In my own family, my father was raised in an Orthodox home. And so years later, when his work it required him to work on Friday nights and on Saturdays, he said, well, he couldn't do something like we do in the Reform movement, do that and then still consider himself doing the appropriate thing. So he said, that's it, I can't follow one rule, so it's all or nothing. So for him, it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've still raised Jewishly, but for him it was nothing in this sense. And it was only years later that I became familiar with the Reform movement and learned so much that it was such a freeing thing to know that I could make a choice and that I could observe Shabbat in my own way, but I could still drive to shul. And
Yeah.
I could still maybe go to the store later, although I don't.
Yeah.
I try not to do that on Shabbat, but, you know, I could create, as you've taught us, and as I've learned, my own way of observing Shabbat. And these absolutes just are so harmful, I feel, and perhaps have turned many people away from being observant of Judaism.
100%. It's a very powerful and personal statement about that. I think that there are absolutes, and I think that's why the Reform movement and I think parts of the conservative movement exist, because we enjoy the gray, and gray is okay, because I think a lot of Orthodox live in black and white, and if you can't, right, there's halakha. The halakha is the path. If you veer off the path, you veer off the path. It's done. If there's no all or nothing, you can't do a partial and a partial. You can't just decide that you're going to do it. You have to either be fully in or fully out, and that's not the case. That's not the case for us, and it's very troubling to have that conversation with someone. It's very hard to have. It's about the fundamentalism too. Look, once you're talking to a fundamentalist, you're not. It's it. I mean, you're done, right? So but it's heartbreaking Jewishly, right? To think, why can't I piecemeal this and this and this? And then luckily we have our movement, because it gives us the informed choice to be like, okay, I understand halakha. I understand these pieces. I understand. Now that I understand them, let me construct my own, as Abraham Joshua Heschel would say, my own castle. Like he decided, like you make your own palace. He used the word palace and time. And each of us makes our palace differently. As long as we make a palace of time on Shabbat, your palace looks different than my palace does. It might include going to the store. You know what? But that's your palace, right? So, but that's why we're thankful for the Reform movement. This is why, by the way, even though I grew up in the conservative movement and pretty much on the right end of the conservative movement, I chose the Reform movement because I wanted to be able to meld and create my palace, because I love the way my palace is built. As long as there's intent in it, and as long as you really are believing it, and not just like, oh, you know, I'm, you know, if you're using quotation marks for things, there's an inauthenticity about it. But it's a thank you for sharing. It's a complicated story. I wish we could, you know, rewind that story and share the movement with your dad, because because and become so involved, right, and so connected to a synagogue, right, and so much part of the fabric of a holy place. Yeah. So, yes. Who else? Who's in there? Sandy.
You're muted, Sandy. Sandy, you're muted. Sandy, you're muted. Sandy, you're muted.
Sandy, you're muted.
I got it.
All right, good, okay.
But I was just going to say that what I've heard, and from my own father, and also was prevalent in my community growing up, and I believe it's still prevalent with the with the Orthodox, is that it only applies to Jews. So therefore, if you hire a Shabbos guy, for example, you hire somebody who isn't Jewish, then it really, you're not really disobeying what they're telling you to do. That's how they, get around it, actually.
Well, has anyone been to Ben's Deli in town? So if I am correct, when you walk in at Ben's Deli, right in that front area when you're waiting before you get seated, there's the little on the left side. There's the case of sodas, and you're usually waiting, and the deli counter is there. There's a little sign that explains that on Friday afternoon they sell their business to someone not Jewish, and that's why they can be open Friday night and Saturday. I think they're closed on Pesach though.
No, but I mean, similar to how you
You sell your chametz on Pesach, that's right. But I'm pretty sure that every Friday night they sell the business to someone not Jewish, and then I believe either Saturday night or Sunday morning they purchase it back from them in a contractual manner. If the next time you go to Ben's, there's a little sign that says there, a little like placard that sits there, and it lets you know because it allows it to be a kosher place. It allows it for someone who wears a kippah to go and sit there and eat a kosher place. I will actually eat there. I find it, I deem it 100% kosher. I only eat kosher meat, and I'll go to Ben's because for me, that's perfectly fine. Like, that's perfectly fine. Now, someone who's ultra-Orthodox is not going to go there because the hechsher level is not high enough that they're going to, who's selling it, who's the blah, 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 it's not going to switch. My stepbrother was just in town. He lives in Muncie. He was just in town, and we went to eat, and for him and the family, because I wanted to, I had to find a place in town that's ORB, right? That's under the Orthodox Union, that the Florida Orthodox Union that has like major hechsher on everything. So we went to eat at an ORB place. It's okay because I wanted some shawarma anyway, which is fine. But it's the interesting thing about Ben's, right, that ties us into the loopholes is that Ben's isn't a brilliant loophole because it allows Ben's to be open 24/7, and that's why you can go there Friday night or Saturday and eat if you're comfortable because it's sold to someone not Jewish for that, which is also complicated why the non-Jews are in this thing. That's a whole other conversation for us to have, but yes. All right. Okay, Sandy.
I was just going to say that he belongs to the Reform, my former synagogue in New York. He was a neighbor of mine, Ronnie, and it was a Reform synagogue. I mean, so he himself is not an Orthodox.
Okay. All right, let's finish this section. So I think we're on 16.
Honor your father and your mother as the eternal your God has commanded you, that you may long endure and that you may fare well in the land that the eternal your God is assigning to you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You, men, shall not covet your neighbor's wife. Likewise, none of you shall crave your neighbor's house, or field, or male or female slave, or ox or ass, or anything that is your neighbor's.
Okay, those are the 10 Commandments. So those are the 10 Commandments. I actually think, believe it or not, I think it's impossible for all of us to fulfill the 10 Commandments ever because of the 10th commandment. I always feel like the 10th commandment is the thing that always catches us because coveting is just a thought. There's no action involved in coveting. And you could just want or just be interested in someone else's car or house or life. I think Facebook adds to it. I think social media adds to it where you think, oh my God, look how perfect that is, or how much money they have, or and then you're done. You broke the 10th commandment. You don't have to, obviously we're not murdering anyone, we're not committing adultery, these are the major ones, right? But so those what quote unquote might be easier. But I always find 10 to be, I break 10 all the time. Even if I'm not even interested in the covet, like that level of coveting, I always wonder, is it greener over there? Is their house any bigger? Is the nicer? Is that easier? Oh my gosh, look at that picture on Facebook, or look how cute they went, or the little family. Yeah, I can go steal a car now. That's great, yeah, yes. Or their vacation, or whatever, the vacation opportunity, or where they are, or how nice it is, blah, 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 blah. Yes?
So if you just notice that and say, oh, look how lovely that is, as opposed to, oh, I wish I was there.
Well, I think that's probably the nuance, right? Can we ride that nuance, right? And again, no one knows what you're thinking, right? And so no one knows what you're thinking. Yeah, he knows, right? Yeah, he knows. Yeah, I was going to say you probably know what he's. Isn't it? Don't you know what he's thinking more than right? That's usually how it goes. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yeah. So, my wife is 7 steps ahead of me. Bob, I think it's going to be, I think you were saving up for this one. I can tell this is going to be a good one, Bob. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But it's not even the acquisition, though, because you don't have to touch it. You don't have to, it's just the thought of it. Yeah, I want his thing. That's the most dangerous part for me, because these other ones involve action, right? This doesn't involve any action. It just involves your head. So, which is really tough. And by the way, the last thing about the Ten Commandments, because I want to save us an eke of time for something else, is that one of the cool things about the Ten Commandments, which we could just spend 4 more hours on the Ten Commandments, is you can read the Ten Commandments 1 through 10, right? Or you can read it in the way that the tablets were, hypothetically, which is like 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10. And some people then match this way, right? So you can match 1 and 6, right? 2 and 7, and there's a reason why there's a midrash that you can match it that way, which, by the way, takes us to the coveting one, because 5 and 5, right? It's 5 and 10 that match up that way, then, right? And what's 5 and 10 that match up? What's 5? Honor your father and your mother. And what's 10? Don't covet. So the midrash is appreciate what your parents gave you, or appreciate the upbringing that you have. Appreciate how they were able to rear you, and don't look and think, boy, I wish I had that, or I wish I grew up like that, or wish I grew up like that. So that's one midrash to match up with the, and we could do a whole other, like I said, 3 hours just on the matching if we think that if we think that works. Okay, Amy, back to your very insightful comment.
59, 60.
Yeah, whoo, is right, because I said 60 seconds. Right, so that was funny. Let's go to 6:4. 6:4. That was funny, dude. That was very good. That was excellent. Yeah, it took me a second too. I was like, yeah, that's good. Yeah. 6:4 is where we're going.
Hear, O Israel, the Eternal is our God, the Eternal alone. You shall love the Eternal, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates.
All right. So, what do we got? Right, Shema v'ahavta. So, Shema v'ahavta is the same prayer. I don't know why the rabbis. I love everything about our prayer book except for the structure that they put the Shema on one page and the v'ahavta on another page. In some instances, it's the same thing. So it's all connected. Shema v'ahavta is the same exact prayer. There are 3 paragraphs of the Shema. This is the first paragraph. The third paragraph is Leman. The third paragraph is Vayomer Adonai El Moshe. When we do the tzitzit, that's the third paragraph, right? The second paragraph, I'm giving you a little insight in what probably the Shabbat message will be actually this coming week. But the second paragraph, by the way, doesn't exist anywhere in the Reform movement. So there are 3 paragraphs to the Shema. The first paragraph is the Hafta. Third paragraph is the one that we do with the tzitzit. Second paragraph, nowhere, doesn't exist. Poof, gone. So it's not mentioned anywhere. So yes, okay. So which is going to be in the Shabbat message, and we can talk about it next week. But so here is the Shema. It's beautiful. We know it. So now let's get back to Amy's question and statement, which is this complicated nature of love that exists this week for us. Now, Tu B'Av might not always fall around this time because that's more of the calendar in terms of the secular calendar. I mean, not secular, the Jewish sort of lunar calendar, not following in terms of how Torah portions fall. So it might not be the Jewish Valentine's Day the next time that we have Va'etchanan, but Va'etchanan is always going to be about love because it has the Shema in it, and Shema is about love, right? Because what does it say in verse 5? You shall love, right? And Rabbi Kahn spoke about this beautifully last night and talked about she took the 3 love concepts from last night, right? And she took she mentioned that love is really only mentioned in 3 different ways. She mentioned that in her little sermonette last night, right? That the only time that we hear about love is loving the stranger, loving your neighbor, and loving God, right? So nowhere does it say to love each other necessarily. It just says love your neighbor, which I guess is each other, and then stranger and God. So your question, as I recall or comment, your poignant comment, is Moses in the middle of all of this. Now, how do we put Moses, who is this beloved leader of all time, that God chooses, and then God subjects him to this roller coaster of his life, and then ultimately does not allow him to go into the land? So where is the love there, right? So that's kind of your question, right? So I'll be rabbinic for a minute. What do you think? Why do you think that is? And I have a backup after I see if anyone responds. No? So here's the backup question. Why put the 10 Commandments and the Shema in the same Torah portion? Are they similar or are they different? What's similar or different about the 10 Commandments and the Shema? No, I'm saying why are the 10 Commandments and the Shema in the same Torah portion?
There's a way to love.
What's that?
There's a way to love, and there's a way not to love.
Okay, so maybe there's different ways of loving. Okay.
Well, they both offer guides for how to live your life.
Okay, they both have guides. Nice.
Moses was, and sometimes putting himself above God. He was saying things were coming from him, not from God.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Torah and in the commandments, we're told that God is first.
Okay. All right. So maybe there was some faltering on Moses' part, and that's why. It's possible. Well, it's for sure he faltered left
But
and right.
again, this is one of those painful lessons for me because I hate that Moses doesn't go.
As do I every year. So yes, every year I hope it's different. Every year I'm like, maybe it'll be different this year, and it's still the same. I still don't. Every time I get to Chukat, which is the Torah portion that I think is very powerful and least like, every time we get there, I hope it's different because he finds out he's not going in the land. Miriam dies and Aaron dies, all in that same Torah portion. So every time we get to Chukat, I'm like, oh, Moses, hold on, buddy. It's going to be a very rough week. So in the Torah, very, very, very rough. So yeah. Sandy, are you on mute?
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
I was just going to say that perhaps because these are all commandments that people have to observe, the Shema and the 10 Commandments, and they sort of go together because it's important that people observe all of them.
Okay. So here's a commentary that you may like or not like. I didn't make it up. To kind of answer your question, and we'll go from there and we'll see if we like it or not, and we can make our own drash. And that is that according to the commentary, the structure is very parallel and balanced because there's Moses, right? And who's the next leader who's coming? Joshua, right. And so it's believed that the structure is like this, and and by the way, the order, not only is the Ten Commandments and the Shema in the same Torah portion, but the Ten Commandments are first, and then the Shema is second, right? So there's a reason for that. Why? Because the text hypothetically could have put them in different Torah portions, or Shema could have come first, the Ten Commandments could have come second. Why this structure? Why the Ten Commandments first? And the commentary is Moses provided the Israelites with the structure and the laws that got them to transition from a band of slaves into a people. He's the one who led the regiments. He's the one who helped to create the tribal systems. He's the one who got them through the book of Leviticus. He's the one, with Aaron, of course, but he's the one who got them through the structure necessary and the laws for them to understand who they are. And then it's Joshua who spreads the love. And so it's believed that the first half that connects to the Ten Commandments is Moses, and the second half that talks about the love and Va'ahavta is the beginning of Joshua taking over and bringing love more into the Israelite space, as opposed to more of the structure. So Moses represents less of the love, which is why then perhaps Moses, even though God loves Moses, Moses' job was to get them to this point. That was his job. His job was not to ever bring them in. His job was always to bring them to this point, to create a community. That was his job. It was never his job to bring them in to the land, because the love part was left to Joshua. You don't have to like the drash. It's sitting right here in the paper that I didn't write, but you don't have to like it. But that's a drash that balances, because a lot of commentaries, including Rashi, is like, well, how can a portion have, what's the portion that has a connection that has both Moses and Joshua and has laws and love in it? It's very confusing. But if you separate them and connect one to the lawgiver and one to the person who's going to carry them into the land, it's separated for them. Not one that I made up. So you can take it or leave it. Yes?
Rabbi,
Yes?
Rabbi, why is it that why is it that the writers of the Torah didn't bring Joshua into the story of Deuteronomy at this point?
Oh, he's around. Of Deuteronomy.
Why isn't he mentioned before or during or after the V'ahavta?
Oh, you mean structurally?
Yes.
Well, probably because you know why? Probably because Moses is talking. It's Moses' speech. He's in charge. So probably. He's speaking. It's his last hurrah. It's not Joshua's last hurrah. It's his last hurrah. So he gets to control whatever he wants to say to sort of end this, a 37-day-long speech. Probably. That's just a guess. It's a good question. It's just a guess.
So is Joshua at any point? Is he brought into the? I know that he does spread the love.
Oh, he's been brought in though a while ago. The Israelites know it's coming. He's been brought in the book of Numbers. He's brought in several times. So the transition is already there. It's clear. It's clear to the Israelites. It's clear to Moses. It's clear to Joshua. It's clear to the Israelites. The transition is already happening. That's already done in Numbers. Yeah.
Perhaps it's because I don't remember having read through
Okay.
Numbers where or that we didn't go over that part.
It's possible.
That spelled it out.
It's in there. It's in there.
I believe you.
Yeah. I get it. I didn't write it. No, I'm just commenting on it. So it's not a great answer, Amy. What do you think?
Well, I'm just going back to the beautiful song that Robin sang.
Okay.
Comfort.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful, so moving. So my personal takeaway from today.
Yes.
On the human layman level.
Yes.
Will be that in order for love to spread and to spread joy, we must have a foundation of respect and rules and obligations and responsibility in order for us to achieve love in any relationship. That'll be my takeaway.
I love that. That's fabulous. Yeah. Yeah.
Amy, that was great.
Yeah. Susie?
Why is this Torah Nachamu, why is that chosen for this?
Oh, because it connects to the prophecy, to the idea that it's post 9th of Av. So, yeah.
The other piece to that is God will be God.
Well, yeah. I mean, God is God, right? So God's gonna be whatever persona or feeling we're going to have, right? I mean, I also don't know if it helps or not. You don't have to go all the way there if you don't want to. But the end of the Torah portion, which is in chapter 7, we're also called finally. The Israelites are finally called something called Am Sgula, which is a very hard. So Am means nation, but a Sgula means like particularly special or majestic. There's a special term for it, and it's for the first time the Israelites are like truly combined in the moment. It's like they really get who they are. It's in chapter 7. I think it's
Verse 6.
yeah. It says it says a people consecrated. It says a consecrated people, but eskulah is also something kind of precious or majestic. So there's also that sort of concept. So this is the Torah portion that's blended with, that started with pleading, right? Gets blended with a recitation of laws, and then ends with this kind of love fest, and the idea that the Israelites are piecing themselves together, and also that Moses is slowly stepping away. All sort of mixed together. Yes?
I just have to say that this is my favorite Torah because so much packed into it.
Yeah.
Those three things, the Ten Commandments. These are the most important rules that you should follow, right? And then listen. Hear, O Israel, listen to this. Followed by a few more rules that are really great.
Yeah. Well, I actually think the liturgists agree with you, which is why the Shema is where it is, because it literally was taken out of the Torah and put into every single prayer book, regardless of the movement. We're all got the Shema. So, and it's clearly important because it's on also every doorpost. That's why there's a mezuzah. That's why there's tefillin. That's why there's tzitzit. All of these things, by the way, all correspond back to Shema. So you're right. It is, and hypothetically, it is the last words we're supposed to say. Actually, right? In our dying moment, we're supposed to be saying the Shema. So it's right. This is it's clearly, like you said, perhaps one of the most important pieces of text that we have, because not every piece of Torah is lifted and made liturgy, but this one is, and it's this paragraph, right, that everyone knows and everyone loves. So there's a little love fest that we had. Yes, Marcia, you get the last word. Is it about love?
Did Moses have any children, or did he treat Joshua like his son?
No, he had children. Moses had children. That's all. That's a whole other. That's a whole other conversation though about his children. On we're not going to get into that conversation. But yes, his children were fine. He had children. Yes. He had children that he didn't circumcise because he was too busy. His wife had to circumcise them. Yeah, he was too busy. That's a whole other conversation about was Moses a workaholic because he didn't have time to be with his kids. That's a whole other angle of Moses if you want to talk about Moses. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, he had kids. Really, the last word, Susie.
I find it very fascinating that the Haggadah takes apart the words strong arm and outstretched, strong hand outstretched.
Right from here.
Go on for pages with strong arm and outstretched.
That's right. And yeah. And it's surprising. It's surprising, by the way, that the Haggadah even takes anything out of this section because the Haggadah wants to take all power away from Moses. So if you look at the Haggadah in general, there's nothing about Moses in the Haggadah because the rabbis want the power in the Haggadah and they don't want any power to go to Moses. So if you no Haggadah has Moses in it at all. What's that? Uv Moshe, right. That's it. But it's not in context of Moses as in Moses. It just has the words in it. Okay. Still a Mr. Torah. Thank you very much for the love-filled conversation.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We are, since we are still amidst our Torah service, we think of those in our community who are in need of healing, a physical, emotional, or spiritual healing. If there is someone that you are thinking about and you want to mention their name, please mention their name at this time.
Mark Davis, Alicia Kenneth.
Gerard families, Stu Fruman, Lawrence May, Sandy Tankus, Ken Tankus, all those affected by war, hate crimes, and violence.
Leah Bat-Rivka, Esther Bat-Rivka, Mara Bat-Rivka, Judy Udin, Rivka Chaya Bat-Leah, Naomi Bat-Leah, Sandy and Ken Tankus, Beth Bat-Edith, Carmela Bat-Sarah Vadov, Harriet Pearson, Ian Hest, Yosef Ben Agolda.
Robbie Tankus, Harry Tankus, Ken Tankus, and Natalie Unga.
Jacob Jerry Cruz.
And thank you everybody for your prayers.
משבח אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, יברך את החולים. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם ולפותם, להחזיקם וישלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, השתה בגלה בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. As together we say, Amen. We conclude our Torah service 256.
Eitz chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar d'racheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chanesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu
Some announcements. We have our back-to-school supply drive from now until August 31st. So we're collecting school supplies and backpacks for children of all ages. So please, if you don't mind, to donate. All the donations go to the Boys and Girls Club, Boca Elementary School, to Jaffco Children's Village, and to the American Association of Caregiving Youth. Any supplies count. You can deliver them yourself anytime you want. There are blue bins that are out in the roundabout. You can go onto our Amazon. We have an Amazon Smile page, and you can do it right through Amazon, and it's connected right to CBI. You can buy anything you want, put it in your cart, send it. It goes right to us automatically, or you can bring it to our Welcome Back Shul weekend, which is going to be on the 26th through the 28th. And so on that Sunday, well, anytime that you're here, you can also bring it, because those are going to be the end of our collections. So you can please bring any of those supplies to us for our back to school drive. The back to shul, that's the 26th of August, 6:30 p.m. We'll be moving from the chapel Friday night to the sanctuary. That'll be back to our sanctuary Friday night. And please come. It's going to be a wonderful service. I think we already have 100+ people already who are registered for that service. We're going to be introducing every single person who works at Congregation B'nai Israel. So everyone meets all of the people who make this place a holy place. So they're not registered. Yes, good clarification. No, I presume none of them are registered. Yes. And then that Sunday is our food truck frenzy, whatever we're calling it. So there are lots of food trucks here that Sunday, the 28th. That's at 10:30 to 1 p.m. And you can also bring your school supplies. There'll be water play, water slides. Bring your suit. It's all you, Muchnick. And I believe there's Name That Tune as well. So that's going to be fun. All kinds of. That's all me. Name that tune. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. What is he singing? I don't know. They all. The Torah says to remain in the chapel. We are amid the discussion on the time, so we might revert back to the 8:30. I know, boo. I understand, but we're figuring it out. I understand. It's the problem is Torah study, because if you start the service at 9 o'clock, that only gives the clergy really about 40 minutes in total for a service and Torah study, because we'd have to leave. So even if someone is here to help, we don't know if, that means the service might have to be really, really short for us to have, because we only have a 40-minute window in general.
And of course the issue is me, because Rabbi speaks for 20 minutes.
Exactly, right. So that's the question. So the conversation would be if we want to. Yes, you're very long-winded. In general.
You have to repeat those verses. It's terrible.
It's terrible. So that's the issue on if we can accomplish Shachrit, a proper service, and also allow for that, and also allow for the time. So at the moment, it's staying at the 8:30 time. We're talking about it and trying to. The other option, by the way, is to do Torah study outside of the service. To do Torah study first, and then do a service that we might not have time to finish, and then it might be finished either with some volunteers who want to finish the service for us. That's another option. That's we start at 9 o'clock, but that means that we change our structure. So we're talking about it. We're trying to figure it out. But yeah, they're staying here. Yes. On September 28th is our Barry Glick Brotherhood kickoff. That is at Duffy's. With more information about that, if you want, there's a flyer. And then, of course, our Sukkot Build and Bourbon and Bros, also our Brotherhood. That's a little bit later in October. That's at 7 p.m. in the Sukkah, in the upper courtyard. And just as a reminder, we have our Israel trip, which is in June 11th through the 22nd. People are already registered for it, so woohoo! It's going to be really fabulous. We're staying at very nice hotels, so if you can, you've not been to Israel in a while, come join us. It'll be fun. And we're staying at really good places, and we're doing a lot of fun stuff. So, yes?
On the Yom Kippur schedule
yes.
that was sent out, it indicated that Fast Talk was going to start at 4 o'clock and then concluding services at 4:30. So it's just half an hour for the Fast Talk.
Does it say that?
Super fast talk.
We're going to check. We're going to check. Kendra Mukshey is going to remind me to check. It's usually at 3:15, as I recall. I believe it's 3:15. I believe it's 45 minutes. So those are parallel. So the children's service and fast talk are the same time. So I believe it's 3:15 to 4, I believe, is fast talk, and then usually at 4 is the beginning of mincha, as I recall. But we're going to look at everything and make sure that whatever the website, we're going to check that. Yes. All right.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Yes.
I also wanted to that we have our book club on Thursday, this Thursday, 7 p.m. on Zoom. And Gail Ryder and Ron Ames will be the facilitators. And the author will be joining us on Zoom, so it should be a fantastic evening. All the information is online, or you can contact me, and we'd love to have you.
Amazing. Thank you. That's nice. Wow, thank you. Author's going to be there. All right. All right, let's begin to conclude our service. Aleinu 282, and together we stand.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Our thoughts turn now to Kaddish Tom, to Mourner's Kaddish, and those in the period of Shloshim, the immediate 30-day mourning period, Robert A. Rosen, Erwin Diamond, Florine Sprung, and our yortzais that occur for us on this Shabbat, George Cohen, Stephen Dubov, Al Elias, Laura Foster, Reuben Gechter, Ivan Gentile, Michael Gordon, Susan Hyman, Ann M. Klein, Eugene Kligman, Russ Radke, Saul Reich, David Rich, Ronald Rich, Bernard Julius Rubinoff, Sivia Schwam, Rosen Cohen, Steinberg, Sheila Stone, Fanny Tashoff, Melissa Yasmin. To those names, we had any name that you would like to add at this time? 294. Yitkadal v'yikadash me rabba, ve'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, as together we say, amen. Please be seated. We are going to conclude on this Shabbat morning with Ein Kelohenu 322.
Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu,
Ein Kemoshienu,
Michelohenu, Michadonenu,
Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu,
Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. May God give strength unto our people, continue to bless us with hope and strength and love and peace. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Rabbi Cantor for keeping us on.